Man, I feel like something's wrong with me, but I don't like.
You're right.
I don't like Apple.
Oh,
I really don't like Apple, and I tried. I
can't stand that computer. It's the worst. I would give you $100 if you would drink one of these. The whole thing. I don't know that you could.
You see, you fooled me once, you can't get fooled again.
Well, Roomba will pick up dog poop, though, and spread it all over the freaking house.
That seems like a mess waiting to happen.
Did you list your title as guru of marketing one time? Well, they want to incentivize us to do what they want us to do.
My personal opinion is that the $1,000 a month does nothing.
But hey, baby, a billion here and a billion there. Before long, we're talking about real money.
And automation won't change that. I believe that the vast majority of adult problems are unresolved child problems.
Would it be better for society to put it in healthcare?
ACA's in the headlines.
We know you're on a medication that's $75,000 a month. We're not paying for that. Oh, then there's some people that do that, and then one day their dream happens. They get to host Wheel of Fortune.
Man, I feel like something's wrong with me, but I don't like.
You're right.
I don't like Apple.
Oh,
I really don't like Apple, and I tried.
I can't stand that computer. It's the worst.
I took the Mac home the other day because Brian was like, "Do some editing on the Mac."
Right.
Nothing was intuitive about it to me.
Sure.
I told Mark. I said, not Mark. I told Brian. I said, "You handing that Mac to me when I've done everything on a PC is like me being able to play the guitar, and then you handing the banjo to me and say, just do it on this."
Right.
And then you try. You're like nothing's in the same place. It's not even tuned the same.
Right.
So like even importing files, and I know people would watch this and be like, "Oh, it's so easy," but I think there's very few people that go from Mac to PC and can do it well.
I can't.
No.
Well, I mean, everything I've done has been in Microsoft, right? I mean, you got Word, you've got Excel. I mean, that's where I live. I think at this point, like it's like the brain, the Neuralink thing almost between me and Excel. It's like there's a freaking, I can't think unless I have a damn spreadsheet right in front of me.
Yeah.
But there isn't. I know that there's that on an Apple, but I don't know how the hell to do it.
Yeah, your wife asks you a question. You're like, "You want me to concatenate?" Like equals C6 divided by B7.
Exactly. Yeah, man, I've learned some fancy stuff too. There's this one. I don't even know exactly what it is, but there's these like double or triple lookups that it's so complex. When you can't just press enter. You have to hold down. I think it's Shift and Alt and then press enter because it's looking up something and it's using the result of that to look something up, and then it's using the result of that to do something.
I think you spend your whole life on a program like that, or pretty much any program, whether it's Adobe or your stock charting software, and they have all the shortcut keys and all the stuff it does. It's amazing, the learning curve on those things.
I know.
But I looked that Apple thing up because I was curious. I was like, is it just me? Because I know Apple created the first computers, the first desktop computers.
Right.
They created them. So it's not like, okay, all these PCs were around and then Apple came on the scene and disrupted everything and tried to, because it's deliberately opposite of a PC.
Okay.
So even to where you go to exit out, it's going to be on the opposite side of the screen. On my phone, Taylor has the iPhone. If I can swipe something, she's going to have to click an X.
So it's deliberate. It's almost exactly opposite.
It's almost exactly the opposite. So I started looking at it. Everything changed because Bill Gates became Bill Gates because he wanted to make an operating system that integrated with everything else. So Cisco, IBM, that was the whole point. One-stop shop, it integrates with everything else, and he wanted that continuity. Apple didn't do that. Apple said, we're going to be Apple, right? But I looked it up. I think 90% of computer users use Microsoft as an operating system.
Yeah.
And only 10% use Apple. So I was like, okay. I was thinking it might be more like 50-50.
Sure.
That's the reason.
That makes sense.
And then I think a lot of people I worked with over the years have always used, a PC.
Right.
And when we started trading stocks, like 2009, there was no application for Mac.
Right.
None of the charting systems would run on a Mac.
Right.
So if you're going to buy a PC or soup up your PC or get a multiple monitor PC.
Well, and did they even I've never even seen like a multi-monitor Mac.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. I'm
expensive.
I'm certain you can do it now. LG has a new 49-inch monitor. That's only like this big. It's 5K, and it bends like this around. It wraps around you, and so traders are buying two because one stacks on the other, and so you have 50 inches of real estate, like a 50-inch monitor that's
It's almost
curved.
as if you're in the chart.
Yeah, it's curved around you. So
Feel the chart.
there's no seams, and it's 5K. There's no
Holy
seams.
crap.
Yeah, it's wrapped around your body. So you're
How
like,
much are they? Why don't you do it? Do it for Christmas so I can play with it.
yeah. We'll put it on self-insured reporting.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do that.
Well, you used to, years ago, we used to go to dinner and you say, we'll let Obama pay for this. And now you got to say, we'll let Trump pay for this.
You know, I was thinking about this, and I am the greatest ever. I do deserve the greatest monitor ever.
Yeah. All right. Talking about Trump, I sent you that link. I don't know. Have you seen that before I sent it to you about Joe Biden talking about the hair on his legs and stuff?
No, I hadn't seen any of that.
Did you see it? Did you click on what I sent you, or you were too busy?
I didn't see a link.
Okay.
I looked.
Oh, I might have messed it up. Sent it to you. So Joe Biden's talking to this this group of kids. They're all African American. Okay, he's the only white guy there, and he says he just starts talking, and he's like, "I know what it's like to be around the roaches." It's so random, roaches. And he's like, when I was young, I had long hair. I've got very hairy legs. And the kids, they like to touch the hair. And I would get in the pool and my hair would float. And the kids would just push it down. And he's like, I always liked kids. I like it when they sit in my lap. I'm not kidding. This isn't an edited video.
What?
He's saying this. And there's this little kid. There's this little black kid sitting there. And he's sitting there beside him. All of a sudden you see his eyes. And he looks at Joe Biden and he's like, I wonder what that kid's thinking right now. Weird.
That is
weird.
Weird.
Yes.
I didn't see that.
We'll have to look at it after we're done.
Liberal media filtering out everything that's anti.
I thought it was edited, and then it came across like CNN and all the big news sources were talking about it, and they're like,
What is wrong with him?
Okay. So 48 hours goes by, and he's in a town hall meeting, and a guy stands up and challenges him.
Oh,
about
I
his
saw
son.
that. I liked that.
And
You're a damn liar.
You're a damn liar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that he didn't seem crazy.
Right.
But I was like, okay, what he's doing here, he's got to be showing that he's fit to go against Trump.
Sure. Or what he is showing is they're all old. They're all really, really old. And they say crazy things. That's part of getting old. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. You're almost going to die.
He's 76, right?
Yeah.
But Trump's 73.
Right.
People keep talking about how old Biden is. I was like, he's 3 years older than Trump.
I'm the most fittest orange person on the planet.
Yeah. So what's going to happen when they go?
I'm not anti-Trump, by the way.
Right.
But he has a hell of a fun character to.
I mean,
he's ridiculous.
I mean, he re-sparked the careers of so many comedians and late night TV hosts.
Oh man, I know.
Like that's the greatest thing ever for them.
Right.
But we're going to be if Biden wins the primary, I don't know who's going to win the primary.
Right.
It might be the Buttigieg.
Buttigieg. I know how to say his name now.
Pete. I think I said it wrong that night too.
You did?
I think it's Buttigieg.
Buttigieg?
Pete Buttigieg.
I think it's Buttigieg. Buttigieg.
Well,
I don't think it's going to matter.
If he doesn't win it, and Biden takes it,
Yeah.
we're going to have an entertaining summer and fall next year.
Yes.
The stuff that's going to come out of those guys. And Biden's got to be.
Right. It's kind of like, if you want to know what it's going to be like right now, you can like grab a couple of beers and sneak them into like an old folks home and grab a couple, like the two old guys, because everyone else is women, and then just get them to fight it out. It's like, you crotchety old bastard.
There was a veterans parade. This came up as a recommended video for me. A veterans parade, and there was this vet, a World War II vet, and he was screaming at these modern vets because they were vets against Trump. And this guy was not having it. And he was like, get me a pistol. I'll shoot them. I'll shoot them. And this is a vet he looked like he was 90 years old.
Yeah.
He's trying to crawl over the metal fence to fist fight these 30-year-olds. He's losing his mind.
And which side was he on? Was he?
He's pro-Trump.
He's pro-Trump. Okay.
But he was essentially, I don't even know if he was pro-Trump. He was pro-president.
Gotcha.
He was saying,
yeah, okay.
He was saying, because I don't think
It's a tricky thing for a military person.
I don't think he ever said anything like, you need to respect Trump.
Sure.
But what people around him that were with him were saying was, he's your president.
He's your president.
Support your president.
Correct.
And
because you made an oath, that's what you were going to do.
And there's this line of vets that are like anti-Trump, impeach Trump, Trump out of the White House, vets against Trump.
Right.
And it was infuriating this old man to the point where he was like, get me a gun. "Get me a gun and I'll shoot them all."
Oh,
And they're
man.
like, "No, sir, you can't have a gun." "Nope." "Okay, calm down." Because what do you do with a really, really, really elderly man
Right.
who's livid?
Right.
So
I don't know.
it's sad. I mean, two different.
Interesting. So we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of that. That's the thing that stinks about it. It's entertaining, but it's polarizing.
I know.
It's polarizing.
Have you been? You're busy.
Oh, stacked.
ACA reporting.
It's that time of year, end of year.
It is
It's ACA's in the headlines.
big time.
Supreme Court for the 5th time. There's a case in the Supreme Court,
Right.
Affordable Care Act case,
Right.
and it's insurers this time.
Correct. That's on the risk corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've read a little bit about it. I mean, I understand with the risk corridor, the whole philosophy of it. Like whenever the Affordable Care Act was passed, the whole thing was, you think about it, you got insurance carriers. This is the tricky thing, I think, for the government, frankly, because you think about how, like in the beginning of this, they were having to sell insurance carriers on the fact that, all right, listen, we're going to start covering everybody. But think about that. You're publicly traded. They're publicly traded insurance carriers.
Mm-hmm.
What? What do you mean? We're going to start covering everybody? Yeah, with no pre-existing conditions. What? Like, we're just going to take them? Yeah, the people who previously couldn't afford coverage.
Just for clarity, you're saying that they're not going to consider pre-existing conditions.
Correct.
They're going to cover everyone. So even if they're a cancer
Right.
patient,
That's right.
they're going to cover everyone.
Right. And so back in the day when those people were weeded out, they weren't on the rolls, they weren't accounted for, they weren't everything. So if somebody at the time is paying $300 a month in individual premium, you can't just say, well, everyone can have it at $300. That's not the way that it works. I mean, because, when you're looking at the underwriting of a group plan, it's all based on the claims and the administrative costs. You're like, wait a minute. I know there's going to be a ton of claims that come in. And so the government was like, okay, well, you're right about that. So, but you're also going to get a whole lot more premium. You're going to get a lot more people because we're going to do this individual mandate. They're going to have coverage. And so the carriers are like, okay, I mean, we don't know what this is going to be. So the whole idea was, let's come up with a risk corridor. Okay, let's come up with a number that, and I don't even know if it's on an individual, but I don't think it's on an individual. I think it's on an aggregate basis somehow about, I don't know. But bottom line is, insurance carrier, you're going to take the first X amount of risk. And then beyond that, if it's worse than that, the government, that's on you. Mm-hmm. And this is the key thing, I think, for me that's really important is it was a partnership between the government and companies.
So the private sector, so these large corporations, and then this bureaucratically run.
Correct.
That seems like a mess waiting to happen.
Well, I mean, there's lots of that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what tax credits. Like we got a whole bunch of money last
Right.
couple of years because tax credits.
Because the government wants to incentivize corporations to do well. They create jobs.
Right. They want to incentivize us to do what they want us to do. So
Yeah,
whatever the hell
exactly.
that is, whatever whichever direction the wind's blowing, that's what they want us to do, and that's what we're trying to take advantage of.
Yeah, and they can manipulate taxes. Yeah.
Right.
In order to incentivize the direct, like to your point,
Correct.
whatever they want you to do, they can give you
With the opportunity zones, development zones. What do we want you to do? We want you to build some stuff here.
Yeah.
And so this
Exactly
is the
what we
same-
want. And when we approve it, you can
Correct.
build it here.
Correct. And so this is the same thing, right? And so the whole point, but here's the catch. It went over those risk corridors and they didn't pay. And so they were
And that was part of the agreement.
right, yeah, that was totally part of the agreement. And so the carriers are
so
like,
you have
wait a minute.
you have these risk pools of people, just so I'm understanding. You have these risk pools of people, and insurance carriers can base their premiums previously based on, well, previously they could deny coverage altogether for
Correct.
someone with a pre-existing condition.
Correct, yeah.
But now they have this.
We know you're on a medication that's $75,000 a month. We're not paying for that.
So now they have all these sick people, and they
Yep.
go, okay, well, the idea is we're going to offset the cost of insuring these sick people by requiring all the healthy people to buy insurance.
Correct.
So now your risk pool is balanced out. You're getting
Correct.
premium from someone who's not going to use their plan.
Correct?
But the risk is that those people just take the penalty and don't buy insurance, or there's
Right.
way more sick people.
Or that the government just says, no, we don't want to do that whole individual mandate.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right,
the government
that's
gets
a
rid of
problem
the
too.
individual mandate.
Correct.
Now you're stuck insuring all these sick people,
Correct.
and they
Right. I mean, this is one of the rare times where I find myself defending insurance carriers, like, because dang, I mean, I think it's like $12 billion, which to me doesn't seem like a lot of money. Right. So, I mean, it's enough to go to court over, but it doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, especially over 3 years, because I think it was over several years. I think it was supposed to even out the premiums, because, I mean, you think about it, like they're just trying to figure out, how do we even rate this stuff? And because an insurance carrier's job is to determine risk, pull in the money from everybody, divvy out what claims there were, pay the cost of running that operation, and make a little bit of a profit. I'm not saying that's exactly what they do all the time, but that's the goal. And, and if in this type of situation, the claims were going to go way the hell over that. And so the government was like, hey, I'm going to do this. But so the whole thing is, if you can't count on the government to do that, why are you going to sign up for that in the future?
Right.
You're not going to sign up for that again. And so I think that's what's really on the line.
Like George W. Bush said, fool me once, shame on you.
What were we talking about?
You see, you fooled me once, you can't get fooled again.
I don't know. The war's over, right? It's still over. All right, that's good.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
So it's I think playing devil's advocate, people would look at it and go, well, insurance companies, because I even caught myself saying it just now, they didn't lose money, but it's not really about how much insurance, like don't take that in the context of how much money they did.
Well, in the first couple of years and beyond that.
They lost money on that, but overall they probably made.
Right. Well, and this is where I always go, who owns insurance carriers? Go look at your mutual fund. Guess what? You own it.
Exactly.
And I own it.
So it shouldn't be looked at as, oh, but they still made all this money, so I'm not worried about it. It's about getting what you're promised, doing a deal, and saying, okay, you hold up your end of the deal.
It's like your neighbor, lets you borrow the lawnmower and you use it and you don't ever give it back. You deal with you give it back.
Yeah.
And then, but he's doing real well, and you're like, screw that guy. Let's keep his lawnmower.
Yeah, he's got plenty of money.
Yeah,
so
look at him. He's
need
fine. Don't worry. Do what you're supposed to do. And so don't find a way to finagle out of it. But I mean, it is a dangerous thing, I think, from a long-term perspective, if you start screwing the private enterprises that are trying to partner with government. But, there's a reason it's politics, right? And so we'll see. We'll see how. I mean, I think there's a good chance that because it has to do with the way that it's funded. All right. So I can't remember the way there was an account that was supposed to be designated to pay for it, but then the Republican Congress stripped it out. But then there's another, backdoor provision to get it paid and whatever. And it's not that much money.
I was seeing that the Republicans were going to take the fall for this. It wasn't the Democrats, because the Republicans stripped away the ability to pay the insurance carriers.
Sure. I don't know that anybody really cares. I don't know that anybody's going to take any fall.
Well, I mean, yeah. So in the grand scope of things, like for the government, the $12 billion isn't that much. But then I got to think that creates another $12 billion hole.
Sure.
And the government says we're going to recap. We're going to get this money back, and they do that. They do that through taxes and penalties.
Well, it's like that one senator said, "Hey, baby, $1 billion here and $1 billion there. Before long, we're talking about real money."
Right. Yeah. So it's like they're going to get their money back.
I would give you $100 if you would drink one of these. The whole thing. I don't know that you could.
You don't think I can drink a whole IPA for $100?
You hate it.
I do hate it, but I drink it for $100.
Is that you're cheap?
Yeah, so $100.
So
yeah,
basically,
man.
it was like the whole thing. Now we know you're a whore. We're just negotiating.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
we know you're for sale.
Yeah, I'm excited about it now.
We know you're for sale. We're trying to figure out a market price.
Shotgun it for $50.
I'll sip it down for $25.
Exactly.
All right,
I'll do a little twirl at
now
the
we're
end.
negotiating. Now we're
I wouldn't like it.
Oh man, it is an acquired taste.
Yeah, because like I told you, I don't like grapefruit. I don't like that bitter.
Yeah,
I don't like bitter citrus.
Right.
Something about it. The way it dances on my taste buds.
Dance. You don't have time for that. You're busy answering ACA calls and questions about reporting.
It's so busy. It's so busy right now.
We got the final regs, though, the 2019 ACA reporting regs.
So every year, right, the large employers have to do 1095Cs.
Mm-hmm.
Large employers, anyone over 50 full-time employees, full-time equivalents.
Right.
So all these corporations have to create Forms 1095C, and we do that for them. But the regs give you from January 1st to January 31st to get these forms created.
Mm-hmm.
and then distributed to employees so that they could file their taxes. Well, this year we got the extension from January 31st out to March, which has happened in previous years. So
Right.
thank goodness we have 60 days to get all of it done versus just 30 days.
Right.
But then, I mean, they changed a lot of things around with the B forms and the insurers having to create the B forms and things
Right.
like that. It's a real, you said this when we started the business.
Uh-huh.
Let's not look at our competitors. Let's not do what they're doing. Let's try to keep our margins in place, do the best we can, offer a high quality product.
Right.
Let's not price gouge anyone. Let's not charge over what we should just because
Sure.
we can.
Sure.
And let's price our product where we think the market's going to end up. And I think it's paying off. It's
Yeah.
paying in dividends because people are coming to us.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people who are coming to us, most of the people who are coming to us were people who used a different vendor,
Yeah.
and they're coming to us.
That's awesome.
And it's great. And people are texting me on my cell phone. I don't even know how they got my cell phone number, but
Probably got it from those marketing people that you always get.
yeah.
I think you list your title as guru of marketing one time. So you ended up on like every cheesy text mailing list.
Marketing poopah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Speaking of cheesy, the guys, and I'm not going to call them by name. You know which two guys I'm talking about. The two guys I sent you the text on.
the cell
What
phone.
is wrong with those guys?
Yeah, I don't know, man. So
LinkedIn.
Here's the thing, and you called this like there's a time and a place. So
Right.
sex sells, right?
Sure.
And sex sells in the media,
Right.
And people know that there's
Right.
there's girls on Instagram that are getting famous just for their butts,
Of course.
right? But industry specific marketing varies. Right. So someone who is, someone who's selling a used car might be able to advertise a certain way,
Sure.
or someone who's running a nightclub might be able to advertise a certain
Right.
way. It doesn't mean your financial advisor
That's right.
can advertise that same way.
No, I mean, me picture with 50 Cent, for like a club video, maybe.
Right.
Right. I'm a little out of place. Me and 50 Cent and a bunch of girls in bikinis advertising like a self-insured reporting seminar is probably not going to land in
that's-
the right spot.
That's the thing. That's what we saw, and you called it. Is like this industry, the insurance industry, it's got a certain way about it. I like it. It seems a bit conservative.
Right.
Um,
Find me in the club.
yeah, I don't
Bottle
I don't-
full of
I
bubs.
don't see a whole lot of that going on. Maybe after parties at certain places like Sherm or something like
Right.
that. But when that marketing piece came out with those girls in
Right.
bikinis on the beach, you were like, this is going to backfire.
Then it was like, and after the party, it's the after party. And after the party, it's the hotel lobby. Yeah, it was great lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
and we saw
that's
some
a
women.
bad idea.
We saw some women producers tear those guys
Oh
apart.
man, I tried
It
to.
was like, oh no.
I posted. I think I posted like the first comment. I was like, dude, this is a bad idea, man.
It was almost like you were going, 4
you know, don't
heads
do
up,
this.
heads up.
Oh man, you're not gonna like. And then the women saw it. Oh boy,
Yeah. No, I don't know the guys at all, but I know
I don't either.
I know that thing right there.
I don't either.
That thing right there. I was
I
like,
know one of the guys is a good guy, but I just don't know what he does. I've talked to him several times,
you're like, that's going to be like a fart in church.
and at some point, if you sign an NDA and work with him long enough, he'll tell you what he does. It's like I'm not really. I just don't know what you do. So
That's tricky. And so even if you do a great job and you're honest about what you do, if you're not coming right out telling people what you're doing and the value you add, they're going to label you as a swindler.
yes,
They're going to be suspect.
yes,
If you meet someone,
Totally.
you go to dinner with them twice and you're like, I have no clue.
right,
I know this guy wants money from me, but I don't know
Right.
what he's going to do for me.
no clue.
Yeah, that's
Hey, I'm gonna switch it up on you. I don't know what made me think about this. Did you ever read the book A Whole New Mind, Daniel Pink?
that sounds familiar.
It's maybe 10 years ago. It's like one of those things. I wouldn't read the book, but it's certainly worth like Googling. The reason I wouldn't read the book isn't because it wasn't great. It was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But so much of it has already happened that it would probably make sense just to like.
Oh, since
you
he
probably
wrote it?
YouTube- Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He was a guy who talked about how you can like Google like a talk that he'll do. And so you'll get the whole book in like an hour. And so he talks about the different trends that were happening overall in the world. And he thought there was 3 major trends. He joked that it was hard to get all 3 of them into start with the letter A. And the first was abundance. He talked about how the fact that we can come up with stuff that's going wrong. And this was, I think, just before the financial crisis. But he was like, things are going incredibly well. I mean, there are, if I remember right, the stat from his book was that there are more, at that time, more self-storage, self-unit storage than there were McDonald's, Burger King's, and Wendy's combined.
Because people have so much crap.
Correct. I mean, he goes, he said, you think like in the Great Depression, do you think there was a huge surge in extra people's stuff? There's so much stuff that we don't even have enough place to put it. Like we got to put it somewhere. And, but the second one was Asia. He talked about outsourcing of work, and we've seen that tremendously. And he was really talking about, it's a really fascinating book because he talks about the difference between left brain thinking and right brain thinking. And so left brain was very organized, sequential, A plus B equals C. And that's that's engineering, that's accounting. Those are important things. And actually there's pieces of that everywhere. But the right brain thinking is becoming among equals, right? And we talked about a Mac. You're not going to do a whole lot of right brain thinking, you're not going to do a lot of left brain thinking on a Mac. And so is that really even kind of what we're talking about? I mean, with right brain becoming more artistic, linguistic, more synthesizing information, the ability to see patterns, stuff like that. But the last one was automation. I think we're just starting to see that one.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of it that's happening. And I know we have artificial intelligence department that's done some interesting things, but we know we're just scratching the surface about what does that look like in a few years from now even?
Yeah. I mean, I view it as a very real threat because there are intellectuals. I don't look up to every intellectual, but there are some that I look up to and I go, okay, this person's on the cusp of what's going on. And almost every person that I regard as a high thinker or someone who I would just go, man, I'd love to just sit down and have lunch with this person one time. They all seem to be very concerned about automation.
Sure.
So whether it's someone like an Elon Musk or a Ray Dalio from the financial from the financial sector.
I haven't heard Ray Dalio talk about it.
He's very concerned about automation. Yes. So I mean, it's broad. All these multi-billionaires who have insight and access to information that we don't yet have are very concerned about automation. And what they're concerned about isn't that it's going to be productive for society. As Ray Dalio put it, it's going to be great for people.
Unbelievable.
It's going to be wonderful for people as a whole when you average it out.
Correct.
But it's going to cause a wider divide.
Right.
The people who have are going to have so much more, and the people who don't have are going to have so much less.
The reality is something's going to have to happen. That cannot sustain.
Which he then ties into, like we talked about last week, how it plays into recession.
Sure.
You have this voting that's, this just one extreme to the other, far left, far right. And something that I hadn't contemplated, I was thinking about last week, is automation going to take out more entry-level jobs or more advanced jobs? I think more entry-level jobs. I think the simpler the task, the quicker automation can do it.
Right.
I'm not picking on anyone or anything when I say this, but when I went to McDonald's the other day, there was one employee working behind the counter and people were typing everything in a kiosk already.
Right.
How long before a robot is the person that grabs the bag and puts it on the counter?
Totally.
And through facial recognition, they know that was you and so on and so forth. And
it's
then
like the whole thing. They said that the company of the future will have one employee and one dog. The employee's job will be to feed the dog, and the dog's job will be to bite the employee if they touch anything.
Yeah, because you need to let the robot do its job. It's going to be way more effective and efficient than you.
Right.
And the number one job for non-college educated males is truck drivers.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that was number one.
It's the number one job.
That's scary. That should be enough to be concerned about.
And that could be, in theory, automated almost right now with self-driving vehicles.
Right.
I drive up down the road all the time. Those trucks are everywhere.
Oh, I know. And it's
I
dangerous.
see the barges come through the port.
Right.
Thousands and thousands come on those ships, or those containers that those trucks are pulling. So that automation displaces everything. Now here, let's go one step further. Are the immigrants, when we talk about open borders, which jobs will they occupy?
The hard ones.
Well, the hard ones, but I'm saying, are they more entry-level jobs, more susceptible to automation, or not?
Yeah, what I see them doing are the things that are not subject to automation.
Yeah.
I mean, just in my current experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a lot of people, a lot of immigrants wash cars. I'm just trying to think of my normal life, whether it's landscaping. I see a lot of that. I'm not trying to stereotype. It's just my experience, right? It's just where I live. This very, clean houses. It's very hard. How are you going to automate that? I mean, there's some things you can do.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that it's already being done. You got a Roomba that's cleaning your house.
Well, Roomba will pick up dog poop, though, and spread it all over the freaking house.
That's true. But we're not in a level of full automation yet.
Sure.
There's no need for someone to wash your car. You pay $20 a month. You can drive it through unlimited times through the car wash because there's machines that.
Well, that's true.
But
they dry it off. It smells like new car.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to have people do these things.
Well, it's definitely, and here's the whole thing that was awesome thing about Daniel Pink. He said that it's not like a lower level, higher level. It's a brain thing. I think that was what I thought was genius is that the things that are, and so where I'm pushing my kids is anything artistic. I have two daughters that could draw beautifully, and I mean, very intense drawers, artists. And so I'm pushing that.
Exactly. You're right. It's not a lower level, higher level. I did a disservice in saying that because I saw someone talking about the immigrants, and I'd never thought of this before. It's, can you write down a description of the job? And if you can, that's gone.
Correct.
And that's essentially what he was saying. It wasn't lower level jobs.
Correct.
He wasn't putting it was that you can write, hey, I need you to do A, B, C.
Correct.
And
it's a left brain oriented task.
My opinion, as I see it, the immigrants do A, B, C about 10 times better than people that live here. That's what I see.
Correct.
Like they work way harder. They're way more efficient.
Right.
Way more dependent. That's my opinion, based on what I've seen.
Based on your experience.
Based on my experience, which is limited. They do a jam up job.
Right.
But it can be just so no matter who's fulfilling the job.
Right.
Let's not even talk about immigrants. Someone who's
even like produce picking can be automated.
Yeah. So it was essentially, he said, if you can write down what you do every day, you need to be paying attention and you need to develop skills that you. Again, like you said, it's very hard to do the arts.
Right.
It's very hard to say, okay, today I'm going to create value that didn't exist this morning through this new thing, and I'm going to create a new product. I'm going to innovate. I'm going to do all these things. Very hard to automate that.
Yeah, but at the same time, like for society as a whole, on the far end of it, you imagine a world where we're transitioned to that. That's a great place to live. I mean, it's a great place to live to where you're not having to do. If the vast majority of people are not having to do lots of that stuff, if traffic was fully organized and like optimized for everyone to get to the best place possible. I'm like, personally, I am for taxing whatever you want to do in terms of a tax. I'm not for taxes except for roads. Whatever you want to do. How much money do you want to go? Let's do it all.
Yeah.
Like, let's double the price of gas tomorrow.
To get roads taken care of.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Because my time's more valuable than most people's. And so if they're willing to share in the money, heck yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah. But here's the thing. What are we really talking about? Some of it is like, I think it's sound bites because in an example recently of our most advanced AI, they took, can you put that bottle right there in front of you? Mm-hmm. Or that can, either one, right? They said, that's point A, and this is point B. And they took a stick figure, and they said, we want this stick figure to move from point A to point B. Now, you'd think it would be a bipedal movement like us. That's what they expected the AI to do. It was a stick figure. So they're going to give it this task. The only objective was to make it from point A to point B.
Right.
But you can't lose contact with the ground. You can't fly. There were parameters.
Sure.
Guess what it did? It disassembled itself. It stacked one leg on top of the other, on top of the torso. Then it put an arm, neck, and head. So it made itself real tall, and then it just fell straight over. And it hit point B. So it stacked itself up like this and then just fell over and hit point B. And they were like, oh no.
What?
No, that's not how we do it.
Well, maybe.
But it, the point is that they were like, the AI is not functioning. So this whole automation,
Well, that's also genius.
it is genius until they cut up a human to stack them or something. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're like, there are certain parameters that,
Right.
and rules that we follow that we just take advantage of.
Yeah.
And this one scientist was saying, no matter what someone tells you, he worked in AI development. He's like, the human brain is so exponentially more complex than any AI
Right.
that we can fathom at this point in time.
Sure.
The fear is that one day
Right.
we're making it up at this point.
Right.
It should end up there if we keep up with
Sure.
the curve. It's a name for it. It's called asymptotic,
Right.
where it gets so close to vertical, not quite, but it's so close to vertical
Sure.
that you can't even measure it. Like that's how we're
Yeah.
going, but we're not there.
Yeah. It's
So then it comes down to the next thought about, and I'll get your thoughts on this. As we talk about automation and displacing, and then we talk about immigration and opportunity and the divide between the haves and the have-nots, there's this concept of universal basic income. And you see universal basic income coming up more and more and more as we go into the Democratic primary. Andrew Yang.
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen?
Yes.
You
it's
think
gonna
so?
happen. Yes.
What do
Keep
you
going.
what do you think about it? Your thoughts. You and I have never talked about this.
Ever? We
I
talked
don't-
about.
I
I
don't
know
think so.
we've talked about basically everything.
Andrew Yang says $1,000 a month universal basic income.
Yeah, I think that it's important to start having the conversation. It's not going to happen right now. It's not the right time, but there will be a time. I really do.
Yeah.
Because it plays directly in with automation. That cannot happen. And you have to start thinking about, it's very easy when you're grinding. Like for the people that like you and I and or earlier in our careers when we were getting after it, it is very hard to grasp in your brain. Everyone should be doing this. I'm talking about me, you too, because I know you. You would kind of have that in your brain that everyone should be pushing as hard as I do. You wouldn't say that, and you know that it's never going to happen. But the whole thought of a handout is very offensive. I mean, it would have been to me. I was like, what are you kidding me? Just get up and work extra. Yes, that's true. That's true. But life is a heck of a lot more complicated than that. And so when you start, the reason I believe it's important, because of when you start bringing on automation, that is going to be a real thing. Those jobs are going away. I mean, you know how many jobs we've taken away?
Mm-hmm.
A bunch. And there's one application that if we were to launch that in the next 18 months, that's going to put a lot of people out of work. Just one thing.
Yeah.
Little tiny thing, small company, no big deal. Anyone has the ability to do it. I mean, you spend $500,000, $1 million, and that's it. You have it. They're not coming back. Those jobs are gone
Forever.
And so it's important to start thinking. I mean, but you start thinking about Warren. Think about you have a baby on the way.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 4. And so where do we want them thinking about doing things? Not A plus B equals C.
So the Ray Dalio talking about the universal basic income. To your point, I'm not worried about our kids. I'm not,
No.
because I know who their daddies are.
That's right.
I'm not worried about them.
Right.
I am worried about the world they live in
I am
and their
too.
ability to deal with that.
Right.
I think they're going to have tremendous opportunities because I hope this doesn't come out narcissistic, but I think there's tried and true ways of thinking that
Yeah.
have persevered throughout all of time.
Right.
And if you apply that and you stay consistent with that, there's fruit that you will bear
Right.
from doing certain things. And automation won't change that.
Nope.
Those things. It won't
Correct.
change that. And as more and more people become victimized, or they have the victimized, even there are people who are victims,
Sure.
but even people who are victims sometimes don't have a victim mentality and they're
I
able
know.
to rise above it.
I know.
But as more and more people who either are or are not victims
Right.
adapt this victim mentality, the competition for our children to be able to carry out certain things diminishes
Sure.
significantly.
And think about it. Wouldn't we want to, if you thought about the world or our country, right, as being a place of like a circus tent, wouldn't you want the net as high as possible?
Yes. Yes.
You would want that for everyone. And so if you have the ability to do it, now getting there is a different animal.
Yeah.
You have to get there gradually. It's a hard thing to do. But what would happen, like if everyone had a certain level of whatever, not instantly, but let's just talk about in the future. So we're not even thinking about how we're going to get there. But 15 years from now, if everyone had $1,000, was that what he said? He found like $1,000 a month of income. You ain't getting rich on $1,000 a month.
Nope.
But you're also not in the street. You're not, maybe you may still be doing this if you're a thug, but you might not be, stealing my Escalade when I park at the Target. That would be nice. I'd really appreciate not have to go get another one.
Yeah.
And so, but there is a societal benefit to doing those, and all those things are experimental. We don't know what it would do.
I think that as Ray Dalio put it, it's a national emergency between the wage gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
It's something we have to address. My personal opinion is that the $1,000 a month does nothing. I think it does nothing, and I think it's a good. It's like a lot of the policies where I go, the heart behind it, what you're trying to achieve is great. Your methodology is going to fail badly, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, because
Interesting.
when you take people who
I
mismanage,
love it when you and I disagree because that almost never happens.
when you take people who mismanage money and you give them more money, they get themselves in bad situations. And I think that the real problem isn't the universal basic income. It's what's happening to adolescents between the ages of 3 years old and 18 years old. And if there's a universal basic income, great. As long as it does not detract from programs that help children when they're developing so that they know what to do with $1,000. That's the biggest deal. You take two parents who are already doing drugs and give them $1,000, they're not stopping doing drugs.
That's true.
They're going to mismanage the money.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
And if you take the tide and you rise it equally for everyone's equally in the same spot they were. That you just moved the basal level. So what I think would happen almost immediately is your rent is going to go from $1,200 to $1,400, $1,500, $1,600, and that people who own the real estate are going to be charging more for it. I think that goods go up. I think that the haves end up they're going to siphon that money back off until you change.
How do they do that? That's a really good point. If everything rises at the same time, that's no different than inflation.
You changed nothing. That relative to everyone else, you stayed in the exact same spot. How you change it is you change the behavior in adolescence, and you give people who don't have fathers or they have
Right.
If you can have more programs for education, real education,
Right.
to teach these people so that when they get $1,000 in their hand and they see it as an opportunity,
Right.
and they can multiply that $1,000 or use it for certain things.
Well, I'm Catholic, so
Yeah.
when Jesus said, "In this world you will have trouble," so
And don't get me wrong, I think the $1,000 a month for people people who are really going after it.
I wouldn't try to make you feel guilty. What Jesus said.
Oh no.
He also said the poor will always be with you.
Yeah.
That's why you want.
Yes, I want to help the poor, and I go, is that the best way?
Right.
I think the heart behind it.
No, it's not the best way.
I think the heart behind it is pure. I think there's faults in it, and I think that's why people debate it. I think that there are people, if you gave them that opportunity, they're going to rise and they're going to do well.
Yeah, but you got to know though, because it's kind of like if you're downtown and the guy's like, "Hey man, you got $2," and most of the time you're probably buying like a 40 of Old English, but maybe not. Remember that one guy? Remember the guy that when our office was downtown, we came outside. And you were talking to the one guy, and I can't remember his name though. You remember this?
Yeah.
We were right downtown, and he's like, "Hey man," I said, "Hey buddy, what's up?" And he's like, "Can I get a ride?" I remember this. You remember this? So I said, "Yeah, man, come on," and because we see him all the time. So he hops in the car, and he's like, "Man, this is a nice car." I was like, "Oh, thanks, I appreciate it." And he said, Is that a change? Is that a change drawer? Like change? Yeah, that's where I keep my change. He goes, "You mind if I look in there?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I don't know what's in there, but you can have it, whatever it is." So it was a little bit of cash and there was some change, and he can have it. So he sticks it in his pocket, and it wasn't 30 seconds later. We're not even out of the parking deck to take him to wherever it is that he wants to go. That he goes, "Ah, man," he goes, "I ain't got to beg for money. I just, I just do it because I'm bored. It's like,
Didn't he get you to take him to his house or something?
yes.
And, then he had bought a van.
Yes. Well, no, yeah. He's like, yeah, I just bored, this and that. And so then I started asking him, like, well, how much money is people giving you? This and that. He still has my money. So he just told me he doesn't need my money. He still has my money in his hand.
Didn't he say it makes him sad sometimes because people give him like $100
Yeah.
and he has to talk to him?
He's like, I'm just like, I got to give him something.
Yeah. I mean,
And then he's like, I think I'm going to sell my apartment. Or I'm not going to get I think I'm just going to get a van. Just gonna sleep in. There's great air conditioning in a van. You just get the gas isn't that expensive.
yeah, I still believe there are more good people than bad people. But I think if you don't have the right education, if you don't have the right knowledge, what do you do with it? And maybe I'm just being a pessimist with the universal basic income thing, but I'm thinking whatever the federal poverty line is per year, what is it now? 11,000, 12, right? I think the new federal poverty line will be that plus 12,000. And
now, people that would be interested in you and I talking probably would hate this concept. Would it be better for society to put it in healthcare?
Would it be better to take care of the health needs of these individuals?
Yeah, or to just go, we're just going to take that same amount of money and dump it into mental illness and drug addiction and
see, to me,
increasing
Medicaid.
I
go on the surface. As soon as you say it, my first gut reaction is yes, way better than just handing out $1,000 check.
That's a good point because I know where that $1,000 is going.
Mm-hmm. It's going to go back to the capitalists that know how to seize that $1,000. And it's going to go into the market, right? Into the economy. It's good for that, right? But does it change their conditions? If a child was, I just think about the fact that we have so many broken homes and so many things that I believe this. I believe that the vast majority of adult problems are unresolved child problems. Mm-hmm. And if we can help fix the child problems, we change an entire generation of adults. And then the $1,000 isn't even necessary. And
what's crazy to think about? That it really only takes about a generation or two for everything to change.
Rapidly, really fast. And so I think the $1,000 is fine as long as we're focusing on these programs to help with these adolescents that are turning into adults and then determining where the world goes.
Yeah.
And as long as that's not being defunded or lacking to do it.
I love my priest, man. He's Father Patrick. He's great because he's like, everyone wants to convince you that the world's just going to hell. He goes, but the reality of it is that in most houses, there's a spouse who's getting up, making lunches for the kids.
Yes.
There's a spouse that's making a cup of coffee for their spouse and getting the paper and making sure the car's warm. And that's the majority. Majority of everything isn't going wrong. The majority of everything is going really good. There's a lot of bad stuff, but most of it's going great.
Yeah, it really is. And I think there's really good people. And I think even the people that do bad things are well-intentioned.
Sure.
Misinformed, maybe.
Yeah.
They don't get
mentally
the right.
Ill.
Exactly. And I just think, what if you took $1,000 and you taught you put $1,000 towards every individual and teaching them how to climb?
Sure.
What happens then? Then they can make $10,000 a month.
Nothing if they don't want to learn.
Exactly.
And does the money even matter then?
Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to a concept I was talking about, and maybe even makes me hypocritical as I say it, because I was thinking, is it worth the waste to get to the ones that matter to?
Yeah.
And that's all you gave the opportunity.
Yeah, you're going to waste.
Oh, it's going to be waste, sure. But are you getting?
Do all tides rise just because? I mean, because I know me at certain times in my life, I would have went, oh, baby. Actually, I know what I would have done probably right out of college if I had done that. I'd have went to Europe. I might have been less productive. I might have been like, shit, forget that. Like basic income. I'm just going to take that income and travel around Europe for 6 months.
I've seen it a couple times.
That's exactly what I would have done.
I've seen it a couple times where parents have given their kids about that much money a month, and they watch the internet and they won't go get a job. That's
why that money be disappearing.
Yeah, because it's a mindset thing, though.
I know.
It's a mindset.
And then there's some people that just grind it out for forever and just do the right thing. Then there's some people that do that, and then one day their dream happens. They get to host Wheel of Fortune.
I saw that. Vanna White.
Vanna.
Vanna White.
Oh, Vanna.
Yeah. Monday, she hosted Wheel of Fortune
For the first time.
in 37 years. I was thinking, I was like, I never have seen her host the
I
Wheel
know.
of Fortune. She back and forth.
I
She used
know.
to turn.
I know
them.
she used to turn the thing.
Now she just touches them.
Do you know that they
Talk
used-
about automation.
Oh man,
No more
yeah.
turning.
I know. Do you know that they used to go drink margaritas? They'd shoot like five or however many episodes in a day. And she and Pat Sajak could go get drunk on margaritas. So the ones late in the day, they were like drunk.
We were down in New Orleans, and Jordan is convinced we passed Pat in the lobby of our hotel. It was a nice hotel.
Uh-huh.
He said that was him, and I looked in the back of his head. Did look like it.
Yeah.
And had it not been for the fact that Jordan said that we were with Taylor Swift in L.A., I would have believed him about Pat. But since I know we weren't with Taylor Swift in L.A., I'm not sure about the whole
Sure.
Pat thing. But it could have been.
I did pass some guy. I don't even know who he was, but Jordan almost fell on the floor in Vegas. We were at a show in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
We came out, and this guy is like oh my gosh, you got to take my picture with this guy. Oh, I just can't remember.
And you don't know who he was.
I have no idea.
I feel that way a lot.
I feel like I've seen him.
I ran into Dana White and the president of the UFC.
That's right. Yeah.
I ran into him. I say ran into him. I walked past him
Yeah.
in Vegas.
You might not want to run into him.
No.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, he seems like a bad dude. But yeah, Vanna White got her shot, and I think she did a really good job.
Did she really?
I mean, if she
Now,
knows
who turned the thing? Did Pat?
No, I didn't see. That's a good point.
Yeah.
No one might have turned it. It might have just.
She went, oh,
It's probably automated.
ding, ding. Yeah. So maybe that's the whole point. Maybe they're kicking Pat Sajak out and automating
Oh,
this
can you
shit.
imagine if that happens? Like, sorry, Pat, we don't need you back. Ratings tripled Monday.
Ratings are, man, oh yeah, Vanna's so much hotter than you. Even still,
Yeah, I wonder how old she is now.
I don't know, 37 plus whenever we started watching her. I don't know. She maybe, what is that? Mid 60s?
Has to be. She doesn't look like
No,
that.
she's very pretty.
She's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't remember when I was watching if it was a Netflix something, but it seemed, I don't know. I mean, I don't live next to her, but it seemed like they were all just like really healthy. And I was always wondering, like, come on now, Pat, you've been hanging out with this really good looking woman. Now I know y'all out there drinking margaritas. Like, what's going on here? But I don't know. But it doesn't seem like that at all. It seems like their families are real close to one another, and it's really awesome.
You never know. You never know.
Oh no, you never know.
People that seem to have it all together, you find out that,
No, they don't.
and then you get around people who just like
I've
can't.
been that person.
Yeah, they can't. That's right. You can't get it right. There's people
Sure.
that can't get it right, and you hang out with them, and you're like their randomness and sporadic behavior is awesome.
Right. Yes.
Like I thought their
Correct.
lives weren't put together, but maybe they've got this thing called life figured out better than me.
Exactly.
Maybe I should take a page from their book. But from the
I know.
outside, it's like chaos.
I know, but you and I don't know. It's kind of hard though, because you think about people look at us and they're like, they talk and they drink beer and they make money. Like, it is damn hard to improve upon that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's I've seen people before, and they were interviewing like
I was actually referring to you. But that's kind of all we ever do. We're just talking and moving papers around until the machines get to where it can move the papers around.
Well, that's the thing. I told Taylor, I was like, I want to build social skills in my child, and the ability to just network and be social.
Sure.
Because sometimes it's not what you know; it's who you know,
I know.
who likes you.
I know.
I was on a phone call, and this just made me feel really good.
Uh-huh.
Very large client, prospect, and I went to hang up the phone, and I guess they thought they had already hung up the phone.
Uh-huh.
And we're talking about multiple six-figure partnership.
Yeah.
I talked to him for about 45 minutes, and I said a lot of things that if a lot of people were in the room, they would be like, you just messed up bad.
Sure.
Because it's just very transparent.
Right.
Like, here's our cost on that, and this is how much money we're making.
Right.
And if you would like me to prove it, I'll send it to you.
Right.
But I'm honest, and that's what you're going to get from me.
Right.
We're not going to do this for free. We're going to make money.
Right.
But there's no guesswork, and I can't come any lower than this because now you're asking me to not make money.
Sure.
And the conversation went a lot like that.
Sure.
And I I heard them say, the guy said, I hung up because I didn't feel right. I was like, I'm not going to listen to the whole conversation because I already heard something I liked.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to hear something I didn't
Right.
like.
Oh, no. Forget that.
I'll just, yeah.
Yeah. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, exactly. I hung up. But when we hung up, he goes, I like that guy. I heard that.
Yeah.
And I went, man, that felt good.
Transparency, honesty, just,
And it
that
was,
actually works.
it,
Your spouses really like that. Your kids really like that. Your friends like that.
yeah, where you go, I'm not going to care about this. I'm going to stop trying to be something that someone else tells me I should be.
Sure.
And I'm going to just be authentic to who I believe I want to be and what I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to see how that goes.
Right.
And if people would do that more, I think they'd find that what they're fearful of doesn't come to
I
fruition.
think they'd be a lot more successful.
Yeah.
Or they probably would get fired and then find the place that they really should be working
And
anyway.
the greatest thing happens to them. Gary Vee talks about that. Gary Vee
Yeah.
was like, just be authentic.
Sure.
And he's like, why are you worried about someone's comment on YouTube? Why are you worried about getting someone to give a thumbs up on your picture? Why do you care what your grandma says? And he's like,
Right.
some of us weigh those two things equally.
Right.
And grandma says you shouldn't do this. And this stranger we've never met in our entire lives says we shouldn't do this.
Right.
And we're worried about appeasing both of them. He said, you get real power when you stop trying to appease either of them.
Yeah.
He said, and to his point, he was like, Grandma, I love you, but I'm doing this.
Right.
I love you, but I'm doing
Well,
it.
it frees you up to be yourself, and you're never going to do a good job at anything, whether it's loving your family or being a good friend, or you're never going to do anything until you're, it's like we don't need another me. We need another you.
Mm.
We need more diversity of people being who it is that they're really supposed to be.
And how can you sustain being unauthentic?
It's just not going to happen.
You're going to get depressed. You're going to get sad. It's going to
You're
break.
gonna be
It's going to
mentally
crack.
ill. I wonder how much of that leads into mental illness, actually.
Has to be. And because so many people feel like they have to be. We're trained to
Sure.
be.
Yeah, it's not like they're bad people.
Mhm. Seven top tips of an interview. And it's all essentially telling you how to be fake and lie.
Yeah.
And you start off with your new employer that
Go in, completely BS everything so that you can make money and get that new $52,000.
Yeah, study so you can have a clever response to this to answer
Sure.
the question you already knew was going to ask.
Oh, did you hear the thing? I love this. I think it was Elon Musk. The question that he asked where he can weed out anybody, he'll say, all right, here's a good example. Tell me real quickly, something that was really, really hard that you had to figure out, a major problem that you had to figure out. Just tell me what that was.
Are you telling me to do it?
Yeah, real quick.
Oh man, off the top of my how do we scale our business where it's just me and you and now we have to have 20 people.
Right.
We have to have 20 people coming in 3 months.
So then they'll get there and he'll go, okay, how did you figure it out? You can't BS that.
Right.
That answer will automatically tell you whether or not the person's authentic or whether or not they're telling, what are they doing?
So-
Are they the real deal?
So you're saying it's going to tell you if they lied about the first question?
Correct. And it's going to tell you whether or not they're the real deal. Because if I said, what is the hardest thing you've ever had to think of? You thought about it and you answered that. And then if I said, how did you figure it out? The level of detail that you'll be able to go in to talk about how you did that and what you thought through and how you felt and what you experienced.
Well, imagine trading options. Trading options
my
where you go, this
gosh.
is how I learned how to trade options. How did you do it? Okay, we're going to start on year 1. This is going to be an
Correct.
11-year conversation
Correct.
we're fixing to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And I bet you after 30 minutes, he's like, I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, I get it.
Sure. Yeah,
man,
you're the real.
that's so good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, because you'd catch him. And if you,
Totally.
I mean, one lie is enough for you to be like, I don't know if I can trust you
I
anymore.
ain't dealing with that person.
Wow, that's good. I like that. Sweet, man.
Yeah, that was. I love